Hey y'all, hello to everyone watching this video, senior seminar or otherwise. What I'm going to do quickly is sort of go through the course as outlined. Give you an idea about the expectations, what we're asking of you, and then sort of what you should be holding yourself accountable to. So this class sort of functions in a few capacities. It is both sort of a tutorial on professional practices. That includes sort of writing a CV, writing an artist bio, cover letters, blanket applications for grants, residencies, exhibitions, how to apply to shows, and then just sort of a couple of their little tidbits in there as well about social media, so on and so forth. That's the professional practices end of things. There's going to be a video for every aspect of the professional practices. The first video that you're going to watch after this one is sort of applying to shows and calls for entry. Throughout the length of this course, you're going to need to apply to at least 5 exhibitions. That's sort of like the bare minimum. I would say apply to as many as you are physically capable of, fiscally capable of, sort of mentally able to do. Just apply to shows, turn that into part of your practice, but I'm going to rant to you about that in the next video. So anyway, the professional practices are all lined out in their individual videos. What I want to talk about briefly today are the free writing prompts from Anne West's Mapping the Intelligence of Artistic Work. Anne West is an amazing woman, an author, an educator. I took one of her classes when I was in graduate school at the Rhode Island School of Design. And the way that her class functions is you would sort of come in as a group, she would read one of her prompts to you, and you would begin free writing. And the only real rule of the free writing, I guess there's 2. One is you must have a dedicated notebook for the free writing. You don't want this across a bunch of sort of empty pieces of paper, sort of a loose leaf paper. You must write them by hand. It has to be handwritten. And then the only other rule is that at no point can you sort of lift your pen up from the paper. If there's a prompt that doesn't really make sense for you or your work, you can write, "This is stupid and I hate it," 500 times, I don't care, but you need to leave your pen on the paper and you need to keep going. The reason that we're doing this and the sort of tactless way that I explain how Anne West's book works is she's able to sort of like pull everything out of you and gets you to sort of like vomit everything up. The book goes through sort of mapping, charting, and writing. And this first chunk that we're going to do, you're just going to vomit up text. You're just going to get it all up on the page. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about reading back through it. No one's going to read this besides you. But what is so important is that you actually sit down and you set a timer and you do the free writing exercise for the 10 or 15 minutes as outlined. It's just really crucial. It's those first couple of minutes, you're probably not going to be writing anything meaningful, but in like minutes 7 and 8, sort of the longer you go, the deeper you go into yourself, the deeper you go into the work. That's where the sort of the meat and the fruit and the sort of the bounty of it lives. This book is really intended to help you craft an artist statement. I'll just sort of give you a little preview of the exercise. There'll be several free writing assignments that you do, and then after we've done a ton of those, there'll be an assignment where you go back in and you just start circling the words that you have repeated, sort of the words and the phrases. And those are that's your subconscious telling you, like, these are the things that are important to my work. Then I'll move into charting, so there'll be a matrix exercise where you're sort of making a map and thinking about the work. And sorting things through. Sorry, I have a tiny kitten who's running around on my computer. I love this book. I use this book religiously. My tiny kitten shut the recorder off. There's just been a reprint. If you have $35, I highly recommend that you buy it. You will use this book for the rest of your life, I promise. If you get that book And Jerry Saltz's recent book that came out, How to Be an Artist, you're sort of set. That's probably all you need. Just do the things that they tell you to do the professional practices things that I tell you to do, and congratulations, you can be an artist with a sustainable studio practice the rest of your life. Using Anne West's book, I'm going to pull out portions that I think are sort of universally beneficial for all artists, and sort of pull from those exercises. Another reason that you might want to buy the book is when you flip through, you'll find things that maybe speak a little bit more to you or speak to your practice. If I love Anne West, which is why I'm only giving you portions of it. If I was a bad person, I would photocopy the entire thing and give you the PDF for free, which I do with most of my other classes. But I adore Anne West. I think that this is one of the most sort of valuable and generous things that an artist could put together for other artists to read, because you're strengthening everyone, you're strengthening everyone's practice. So that is how those free writing prompts are going to work. You're really responsible for making sure that you do those things. You're responsible for timing yourself and sort of being honest with yourself and holding yourself accountable. So I really encourage you to do that. This isn't sort of busy work. The intention is that these are pointed questions that, sort of like different planes on a sort of fractal object or a crystal, they're all sort of reflecting different aspects of your practice. So something will ask you to talk about light, something will ask you to talk about time, something will ask you to write metaphors for your work. And these are all sort of different mirrors that are trying to triangulate where you and your work sort of exist, but coming at it from these indirect angles. It's lovely and I love it. It's one of the most important classes that I ever took in grad school. I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. And for me, if there's a prompt that you're just like, this is stupid and has nothing to do with my work, that was the prompt. It was one of those prompts that really sort of sold me on why this process worked. I was writing and I was like, this is dumb, this has nothing to do with what I do. And I sort of just decided to give up and lean into it. And the sort of more I wrote, I was like, oh, that's who I am, that's what my work is about. And it was a really sort of amazing process. Think of this like guided meditation, artist statement writing. And then the few other things, you should be spending 10 to 15 hours at like the absolute minimum in your studio every week making work. This class is geared towards senior students that are getting ready to graduate, and we're sort of really ramping up for your senior exhibition that comes really in a few short weeks after this begins. Start thinking about your work, keep a sketchbook, plan out a show, make sure that you're documenting the process all along. Make sure that you're reading interesting books, and watching good film and listening to music that all sort of informs your practice. When I'm getting geared up for a show, and when I'm sort of in that process of generating the ideas and creating the work, I become incredibly strict about what I allow into my bubble, which is to say that it's not that I'm only reading art theory at those times or at those points, but the sort of the books that I'm reading for fun usually have something to do with it. Maybe I'm working on something about illness, I'll find something sort of tangentially related. If I'm thinking about class, I sort of have these books and these novels that I like to go back to. So just making sure that sort of your work is going to be the process of sort of filtering all of the information that you let into your life and your space. So be really careful of that. Be really mindful about what you're sort of feeding your brain in terms of movies and literature and film and music. Those all will end up sort of seeping back out into the work. The other thing that I encourage / mandate that everyone does, go to the major museums in the area. Go to the Walker, go to the MIA. The Walker is free Thursday evenings and first Saturdays. The MIA is always free. Go to the museums. They're opening again. Just go. It's important. Go to exhibitions. If you're not able to go to exhibitions, find virtual ones. Go see what's happening in the major museums on Instagram. Make sure that you're taking in work by other artists. Go buy yourself an artist book. Give yourself a treat. But bring that in and make sure that you're having conversations with people. The other thing to remember is that art is not a competition. Your peers are your greatest asset. Invite them into your studio. Have studio visits. It's really important to have friends that are other artists and sort of friends you can talk about, not just sort of is this visually compelling work, but about the conceptual underpinnings of it as well. One of the expectations with this as well, and I cannot stress this enough, you are not just making beautiful objects or beautiful 2D work. You are making work with conceptual underpinnings. You are making work about something. You're not just making something because it looks cool. Please, I cannot stress that enough, because if you're just making work about things that look cool, when you go to write your artist statement, you're going to look like a ding-dong. You're not going to get into shows. You're not going to get into residencies if your work is sort of vapid and not about anything bigger than the colors or bigger than yourself. So even if you're making work that's autobiographical, it doesn't have to. That's not to say it's vapid. That's to say that it's sort of, what about yourself are you interested in? What about yourself are you interrogating? What are you doing? What are you interested in? What are you thinking about? And that's when you're thinking about the work, that's the other thing. What is it about? What do you care about? I think that is most of my rant. Please do the free writing assignments. They're wonderful. They will help you, I promise. And good luck with your work. Contact your faculty advisor if you have questions, and we look forward to seeing what you have in the spring.